turning power upside down. In the valley of the shadow, we're a candle in the window. In the broken pieces, healing. In our unbelief, believing. Saying hope will rise. Hope will rise. Hope will rise again.
Good morning.
It's good to see everyone this morning. Good to have those of you that are worshiping from home with us as well. Now, I need you all to do me a favor today. Finn, my oldest, is training on camera. But here's the deal. I can't see what he's putting up there. So if he puts up weird shots of me, you have to let me know. We will deal with it later in the afternoon. So I'm so glad to be with you this morning. That was a really nice way to start worship and kind of be upbeat on this day. If you are visiting with us, we're glad that you came out to worship with us this morning. It may be your first time or your second or your fifth. For some of you, it's well past your 100th. We're just glad that you are here because our worship experience is more full, more intimate, more sacred when we are gathered together. So thank you for coming to worship this morning. If you are visiting and you would like to hear from us, you want to get our weekly newsletter that goes out on Wednesdays, or you would like for me to reach out to you, there are some visitor cards in the pew. You can fill that out, and when the offering plates go by, you can just make that your offering. Drop it in the plate, and we will reach out to you or include you in the newsletter, whichever you prefer. I will tell you, and this goes for members as well, if for some reason at midnight on a Wednesday or Thursday morning you say, I have not seen the newsletter, look in your junk or spam box, okay? Because I've been getting the newsletter right since we started the newsletter, and there are some weeks that my Outlook decides to just junk stuff from Crossroads. I don't know why. Even my own email address has our church name, but sometimes it does that. So if you haven't seen something by Thursday from us, just look in that junk or spam box, because it does go out every week. We're continuing today our conversation on servanthood and what it looks like. And it may not feel as much like we're talking about servanthood today, because we're kind of looking at what moves us, what motivates us, what keeps us serving, even when the world feels dark, right? Whether it's in our own personal lives, in the congregation, in the community, in the broader world. And so we're going to think some about that, and I'm going to give you a little opportunity to talk back to me about that later as well. And we will share in communion. And in case I forget to say this later, our communion table is always open to everyone. You don't need to be a member of our church. You don't need to have everything figured out. You can have questions, you can have doubts. Everyone is welcome at the table of Jesus, just as you are welcome in this space to create sanctuary with us, to be welcomed and affirmed and loved. So I don't usually robe, as we've said. I don't wear a collar. I don't even wear stoles, but for special occasions. But for this season of Lent, that's the next one. Clearly, we're doing some Lent planning right now, and my mind is many places. For the season of servanthood that we're talking about, I'm wearing a stole because the stole is a symbol of the cloth with which Jesus dried the disciples' feet. Okay, so this, when clergy put this on, it is a symbol of being servants as well. And so today, I'm wearing one made by Angie Timms. It's even got a dedication in there. It was made for Pride Sunday in 2016, which was my first Pride Sunday with you guys. And I have worn it at many weddings, including Seth and Cole's wedding. Cole's back in the nursery right now, and Christina and Shanna's wedding. So it's probably the stole I wear the most. So yes, thank you, Angie. I love it. And Gerald has one too, actually. He has the same stole. We both have this rainbow stole. Yeah, so a lovely gift. And a reminder that as servants, we are truly servants to the beautiful, diverse creation of God. So I'm going to pass it off to Rob as we turn back to worship.
Thanks. So welcome. And whenever I have to speak in front of you, I think of this Leonard Cohen quote. He said, "Friend, whenever you speak this carefully, I know it's because you don't know what you're saying." I heard a story last week, and it kind of relates to the theme. But there was a boy who was getting ready to do his first airplane flight. And it was a gray, overcast sky. The whole sky was blacked out by gray clouds. And his dad told him, "We're going to see the sun." And he's like, "You're crazy. There's no way we'll see the sun. The whole sky is covered." And when the plane lifted up through the clouds, he realized the sun was actually there and shining. As an adult, he kind of searched for a way to remove that cloud when he couldn't see the sun, when he couldn't feel the brightness. And the pathway there for him was gratitude. He thought of a specific thing he was grateful for and named it. And then he thought of one more thing and named it. And he did that for a while to get in that place of being grateful. And then he thought of something and didn't name it. And it was that yearning that kept reaching toward the light. So I invite you, when it's hard to see the light, to look for that place of gratitude and to stay in that place, and you will find the light. So I invite you now to join in this response at the end of this prayer. Open me up, God. I don't want to cut myself off anymore. Unlock my heart. Teach me how to receive your light. Let your light radiate through me. Let my anxiety give way to assurance. Let my scattered thoughts give way to focus. Let my fears give way to faith. Be with me, God. Let me shine. Let me bless your world. Bless you, God, who makes us holy on this day.
Candle in the dark.
want to stand? You will keep the fires burning. 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 Standing in the desert of dry bones, but still we see your light. Walking through the valley of shadows, holding on to life, and we're waiting, waiting for you, God. And our hearts will trust in who you are. God who keeps our fires burning, burning through the darkest night. See the hope in our hearts, the faith in our eyes. You can move the highest mountain. You can keep our dreams alive through the joy of our hearts. And you're the fire in our eyes. We're standing in the shadow of dry bones, but still we see your light. Walking through the valley of shadow, but holding on to life. And we're waiting, waiting on you, God. And our hearts will trust in who you are. God who keeps our fires burning, burning through the darkest night. Through the hope in our hearts, with the faith in our eyes. You can move the highest mountain. You can keep our dreams alive. You're the joy of our hearts, and you're the fire in our eyes. Light up our lives with holy flame, all for the honor of your name. Give us the strength to face the day. Light up our lives with holy flame, all for the honor of your name. Give us the strength to face the day. You're the fire in our eyes. God who keeps our fires burning, burning through the darkest night. See the hope in our hearts, the faith in our eyes. You can move the highest mountain. You can keep our dreams alive. You're the joy of our hearts, and you're the fire in our eyes. You're the fire in our eyes. You're the fire in our eyes. You light up our lives. You're the fire in our eyes. You will keep the fires burning. 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 Will those who are going to receive the offering come on forward? I was just talking with Melody before the service. This is the part that's really hard for me, to do the offering prayer. And that is because for the last several years, I have not been putting anything into that basket because I just don't make enough money to do that. And it's kind of a point of shame for me. And it's a real disconnect to be up in here asking you to give and not to be able to do that. So I ask for your grace, and I ask you to just pray with me about our offering. Lord, we all come from different places, and we bring what we can, and we give out of your abundance to us. And we ask you to bless it and multiply it. Thanks in your name. Amen. Amen.
God of day and God of darkness, now we stand before the light. As the shadows stretch and deepen, come and make our darkness bright. All creation still is groaning for the dawning of your light. When the sun of peace and justice fills the earth with radiant light. Still the nations curse the darkness, still the rich oppress the poor. Still the earth is bruised and broken by the ones who still want more. Come and wake us from our sleeping, so our hearts cannot ignore. All your people, lost and broken, all your children adored. Show us Christ in one another, make us servants strong and true. Give us all your love of justice, so we do what you must do. Let us call all people holy, let us pledge our lives anew. Make us one with all the lowly, let us all be one in you. You shall be the path that guides us, you the light that in us burns, shining deep within all people. Yours the love that we must learn. For our hearts shall wander restless till they safe to you return. Finding you in one another, we shall all your face discern. For our hearts shall wander restless till they safe to you return. Finding you in one another, we shall all your face discern.
From Isaiah 9. But there will be no gloom for those who were in anguish. In the former time, He brought into contempt the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the latter time he will make glorious the way of the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations.
The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined.
You have multiplied the nation. You have increased its joy. They rejoice before you, as with joy at the harvest, as people exult when dividing plunder.
For the yoke of their burden and the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor, you have broken as on the day of Midian.
I'm going to be a little more casual today. Maybe a little bit of a conversation. First, I want to tell you a story that, well, it's not much of a story, but one you can probably relate to. That feeling when the power goes out in your house, you know? Our power went out, I don't know, about a week and a half ago or so. There wasn't a storm, anything. Apparently a transformer had caught on fire. And it was about 8:30. The twins were in bed. Finn and I were up. Power went out, and I looked outside, and one neighbor had lights and one neighbor didn't. And I was like, well, that's odd. So I walked outside, and part of the block was without lights, part wasn't. And within seconds, Asher came running downstairs. Maybe he had not fallen asleep yet. I don't know. He's 6. His sister was already out. It doesn't take her long. But he came running downstairs because the sound machine had turned off and the night light had gone away. And it was too dark. He came downstairs expecting to find a light on or the TV on, and of course everything was out. And he was not going to go back up to bed. And I kind of sat there for a few moments in the dark, relishing it. Finn had a moment of like, oh, I can't watch this video anymore. The internet's out too, right? That connection of all the things. Maybe I shouldn't open the refrigerator because who knows how long the power will be out. And I kind of thought, okay, let's just go to bed early. That's how and we did. But first I had to light a candle and get a flashlight. And we made our way upstairs. And Asher looked at me and said, no, I have to keep a light on. And I'm thinking in my head, well, I'm not going to leave a burning candle in his room with the way stuffed animals and blankets go flying, and I'm not going to just keep a flashlight on all night. So he stayed with me in my room that night, because at least if you're in the dark and mom's there, it's okay, right? There was relief in the morning when they woke up and the light was back. Of course, Eleanor had no idea about it. Had no awareness. The boys had to tell her that the lights had been out in the night. But even just the sunlight coming through. I mean, we didn't have to turn on lights in the rooms, right? The sunlight was shining in, and you could just you could feel the sense of relief off of Asher that the light had returned. Light in our lives, not just artificial life, works similarly. When things seem dark or bleak, and light breaks through, we sometimes experience that sense of relief. Our hope might be restored. The despair is diminished. You can probably call to mind times where you've experienced that individually. Maybe in a time when money was tight, and you didn't know how you were going to pay a bill, and suddenly someone asked you to do a favor and they paid you for it, right? Or you had an opportunity to do some work somewhere, a new job opened up. Maybe it was something else that happened in your life that just brought that bit of light and made the darkness that you were feeling a little bit better. Maybe it was a deep inner darkness and a session with a therapist or a new medication or someone who just sat with you and said, I'm glad you told me. Gave you just a little bit of light to bring relief to your dark world. We experience that in ourselves, right? Inwardly. And we experience it within our personal lives, in our families, in our circles of friends. We experience it in the community. We experience it in our nation, right? And in our world. Churches everywhere are experiencing a lot of that coming out of the pandemic, right? A sense of darkness, a sense of regress. Where do we go from here? I want you to think with me for a moment about these Israelites that we've been talking about for a couple weeks now. Remember, they have lost their identity. They have lost their home. They don't know what the future holds for them. And then listen to these words. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined. But here's the thing. That passage that we just read is actually from Isaiah 9. And the last 2 weeks, we've been in Isaiah 42 and 49. We've been talking about when the Israelites were exiled to Babylon. These words come when they were under what we suspect was Assyrian control. So here's the thing. It was not their first time, right, having oppressors over them. It was not their first time experiencing darkness in their world. And yet these words that Isaiah offers brought light and hope and relief to them in that time, just as similar words would have in the time of the Babylonian exile, or when they were exiled in Egypt, or many times throughout their experience, whether they were undergoing despair and darkness as an entire nation, or as a community, or as individuals. Those words, popular words that we quote a lot in church life, were meaningful throughout the life of the church, long after Jesus' time, and they still are for us today. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. We may know the experience of being in darkness. We may have a history of being in darkness, but we also have a history of seeing the light. And that is worth trusting in. That is somewhere to put our faith. Light would shine through again for the Israelites, just as light shines through again for us. So here's where I want to ask a question. I want to know where you have seen light shining through in our church community, okay? And you can talk back and I'll try to hear you well enough and say it so everyone can hear it as well. But here's the thing. You can only give examples from the last 2 months. And I know this will be a challenge because have you ever noticed that when you want to talk about good things in life, whether it's church or your life at home or even your work, do you go back to the big memorable things in the past? Right? We've talked a lot about how we have a healthy, large group of founding members. And there's a lot of beauty and light and meaningfulness in those opening stories. And that was 24 years ago this month. And there are a lot of us in here that weren't there at that time, right? So I want to know, where have you seen light in this congregation in the last 2 months? Oh, Joni is standing up and ready. In Rob's words today. Yeah, I agree. In Rob's vulnerability and openness today in sharing. I'll come right back to you in a second, Vera. I saw Kathy's hand up.
In our book study of Accidental Saints by Nadia Bolz-Weber.
Yeah, Nadia Bolz-Weber's book and our discussion on Wednesdays, it's just been powerful and a big group of us. Vera.
Mine will be when me and my siblings first came to the church, and they all were at the airport with us. That gave me life.
That's a great memory when you guys first came here, yeah. I think I saw a hand from Kathy, and then Don and Loretta, Trevor. Okay, Kathy. Game nights. There's a lot of light in that, right? It cracks me up how much fun and intergenerational that is. Don, I saw you, Julius. Our stewardship time. Yeah, that was life-giving this year, and that is a hard season. Yeah. Loretta. I might cry when I say this. Aw. The friendships that we have in this congregation have really supported me over the last, even just the last couple of months. Yeah. I've just been able to reach out and feel really heard. Lovely. The relationships, how people are there for you and you support one another. Okay, I was going back over to Trevor. So many hands. Yeah, the young people in worship and involved with worship, Finn and Morgan, or Finn and Morgan is also young. Tiffany. Thank you, Morgan. that was a lovely little wave there. Okay, Julius.
The joy I received from watching how the cake that I made for my birthday last week was received.
That's right.
That very cold night to play games brought a lot of joy.
Yeah. Sharing your birthday with church folks and your homemade cake. Yes. Vincent.
Getting to on, I think it was Friday night, going to have dinner with you.
Yeah.
Having taco night was great.
Yeah, that was going to be my example. It was Friday night. We had a young adult dinner at Seth and Cole's. I was the old one there. I really was. I was the old one there. And there were 10 young people there from ages like 18 to mid-30s. And there were a few that would have been there but had conflicts or health issue things come up. And at one point somebody said, I didn't know there were so many of us. And I said, well, yeah, when you're all in the same space, you see each other, right? Seth, you had your hand up, and then I'm going over here.
I was going to say the same.
The young, yeah, that was a great time. Okay, somebody over here had their hand up. Tim.
Children's time a few weeks ago.
Yes, children's time a few weeks ago was a great light. I'm loving that the parents of the children that helped make children's time so fabulous are here today, because I have heard wonderful stories about how enjoyable that was to see the kids just bring such life, and it's been great teasing Greg too. You're in therapy, but you'll get over it. He is going to do children's time again at some point, don't worry. Jody, then Darren, then Randy.
Two things. One was the community meeting where we did affinity groups and had discussion about sabbatical. And the second one is the circle time.
Great.
A time of sharing and wisdom and really wonderful.
So community time, or the community meeting around sabbatical and the affinity groups, and then circle on Sunday mornings, which happens in there at 9:15, if anybody would like to go. Darren.
I'd like to thank the church for what everyone did with the homeless camp for Christmas. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever witnessed in my life. It meant a lot to a lot of people. When that Fulbright came in and people came here to the church, it was what Christmas is all about.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, we've had a really easy winter, but those few days around Christmas were so cold. And so supporting the homeless camp, supporting the individuals experiencing homelessness and housing them and providing not just food, but fellowship, friendship. Yeah. Randy? Same thing. He was there for it. Yeah. Anybody else? Those were great. I really thought I was going to have to prod you, and no.
Well, I have a unique view because I get to, whenever I'm up here, I see all these points of light for me.
Yeah. All these folks out here. Yeah. Anybody else? I don't want to leave anybody out. That was amazing. I really thought I was going to have to give some examples. in all of our conversations recently, about what does the future look like for our church, it's really easy to dwell on the dark parts, right? And the hard things. But look at all the things you just named. Look at all those beautiful things of light and of God's presence happening in and through this congregation. And I wish we could just collect them as thought bubbles. At any moment that you're feeling a little bit of despair or darkness or frustration with the chug of life or the chug of church life, you could grab one of those and think of them. Maybe go home today and write some of those down so you can return to them. Look for those, moments of light. Hold on to it. What does this have to do with servanthood? I think that's what the worship planners asked me when they were designing this service. How are you going to tie this in? Are you motivated to serve when everything seems really dark and like the path is going to be hard? No one said yes. I'm not surprised. Are you motivated to serve when there is some light or some joy or creativity or love abounding? Yeah. There's this house just a block up from where we live. It's one of the oldest houses in Liberty. And for years, people have wanted it torn down. It has sat empty. It's falling apart. Windows were crooked. Nothing about this house seemed livable ever again in life, right? And I love historic homes. We live in a historic home. Even I was kind of like, this is just bad. This is bad. Like, nobody should even be squatting there. Nobody should be staying there to get out of the cold because the roof might collapse on them. That's how dangerous this house was. And there's a guy in our community who rehabs old houses. And he had been asked for years and years to take that house, and he kept saying, no, I'm not taking that house. It is a mess. Abby knows exactly what house I'm talking about. Well, he took that house, and for months and months, it was like just a pit of despair. You were like, what is going on? They were pulling off cement shingles. You were seeing how crooked the house was. I walked in it, and there was this, they pulled up the floor, and there was this giant pit underneath the floor. Like they had dug for a basement, but never put in the basement, right? It was just disturbing in so many ways. Maybe, yeah, trying to find the basement. So last week, new siding started going up. And it's about halfway around the house at this point. And I turned the corner and I saw it. And I'm sure there has been some improvement on the inside, but of course nobody in the community is seeing that, right? But I turned the corner and half the house has siding. And it was just this moment of light, of how something that you think can just be done, dead, lost, unsalvageable, can be brought back to life. And there is still some of the structure and the bones of that 100-and-some-year-old house in there. And there is some new beauty added to it with new ideas and creativity. And it's a light in our community of what can be done. I can't wait to go look inside it again. Those kinds of things are motivating. They are inspiring. They remind us that we don't just trod through the murky mud of life forever, right? And so as a church, we need to keep looking to these great lights, no matter how small or big they seem, because they inspire us, they move us, they help pull us out of the dark. Every time somebody says, well, we're an aging congregation, these days my response is, and look at all those young people and look at those new people visiting. Oh, we've got, building repairs that need to be done. Well, look at all the repairs that we did do in the last 2 years. Look at those positive lights. Look at how much has been done and is happening here in the life of this community, and hold on to it. Don't let go. Let those moments inspire you. Because when we do, they begin to free our mind and let us imagine and dream a future that is filled with life and goodness. We are not going to look like we did 24 years ago. I mean, come on, none of us are going to look like we did 24 years ago, right? I wish. We are not going to look like we did 3 years ago. We're not even going to look like we did a year ago. We are going to keep stepping forward into the future. We are going to step into tomorrow. A new day is dawning here for us at Crossroads. And I thought for a little bit that maybe I was the only one feeling it. And yet I keep having these conversations with people and they say, I feel like we're on the verge of something. I feel like we're on the threshold of something. And that's what I'm feeling too. So when we talk about being servants right now, I don't want to just talk about being a servant to what was, but what could be. Be a servant together as a community in search of that vision that is upon us, that goodness that is before us, that new day that is dawning here. Amen. Took bread on the night that he was betrayed, there was a lot of darkness coming upon him. There was a lot of darkness in the world. A darkness that we still to know today, right? Where innocent lives are taken unjustly. Where we are sometimes betrayed by friends or denied by friends. Where people in the world don't live up to our expectations of them. It was a dark week. And Jesus took bread and he gave thanks, blessing it, and he broke it, and he said, "This is my body which is given for you." This is a great light. The table that we come to offers us goodness and light and love. And it's a table where we are all welcome. We can come in whatever light or darkness we are walking in that week or that day or that moment. And so Jesus took the bread and he offered it, and he took the cup that he said was the new covenant in his blood, and he gave both to his friends, offering them as a covenant to them, a covenant that we still have with God. And so come to the table, one and all, you are welcome. Come and receive communion, knowing that this is a place where God's light shines at every moment for you, that you are enveloped in the light of God at the table. With those who are to offer communion and those who are ushering, please come forward or take your spaces. If you're new to us, as I said, communion is open to everyone, and ushers will guide you to a station at the back or the front. We have traditionally done intinction, where you take a piece of bread and dip it in the cup and receive it along with a blessing. But because of the pandemic, we have shifted some. And so for right now, to ease concerns about spreading germs, particularly in these winter months when hospitals are overflowing and such, you'll receive a grape and a cracker, and the cracker is gluten-free, vegan-free. It's safe. And so you can come to the front or to the back, receive communion and a blessing, and partake as you return to your seat. And I hope that as you do so, you will be surrounded in God's love and the light of Christ that shines into your life, breaking through all darkness. Let us come.
Lift your head, raise your eyes, look around. Your light has come. Your light has come. Like the world, feel the earth, bear the Christ. Your light has come. Your light has come. Lift your head, raise your eyes, look around. Your light has come. Your light has come. Like the world, heal the earth, bear the Christ. Your light has come. Your light has come. Lift your head, raise your eyes, look around. Your light has come. Your light has come. Like the world, heal the earth, bear the Christ. Your light has come. Your light has come. Lift your head, raise your eyes, look around. Your light has come. Your light has come. Like the world, heal the earth, bear the Christ. Your light has come. Your light has come. Your light has come. For everyone born, a place at the table. For everyone born, clean water and bread. A shelter, a space, a safe place for growing. For everyone born, a star overhead. And God, the delight, we are creators of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, God, the delight, we are creators of justice, justice and joy. For everyone born, a place at the table, for gladly the road
And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice, justice and joy. For young and for old, a place at the table, a voice to be heard, a part in the song, the hands of a child in hands that are equal. For young and for old, the right to belong. And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice, justice and joy. For gay and for straight, a place at the table, a covenant share, a welcoming space, a rainbow of race and gender and color. For gay and for straight, the tribes of grace. And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice, justice and joy. For everyone born, a place at the table, to live without fear and simply to be, to work, to speak out, to witness and worship. For everyone born, the right to be free. And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice, justice and joy. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice, justice and joy.
So good, as always, to be with you, to worship with you this morning. Thanks for wearing name tags. We used to do this once a month, and we thought, there's so many new folks that have joined online over the years, like, let's do this. It's a great time to do it on Communion Sunday, because when you come forward, we see your name. So thank you for doing that. Next Sunday, I want to mention that thank you, thanks. Obviously, it's the Super Bowl Sunday, so I'm sure you will show up in red, no doubt about that. But also, we want you to think of it as Super Bowl Sunday, as in S-O-U-P-E-R, and encourage you to bring canned soup for our soul pantry. That thing gets emptied regularly. So soup is amazing. Hearty soup is really great. If you're fortunate to find the ones with the pop tops, that's even better because not everybody has a can opener, right? So bring soup in. I'm already picturing this like tower of soup in the back. like our own, almost like a trophy or a pyramid of soup. So bring soup next Sunday. Also, at 1 o'clock next Sunday is drag queen story time. Our first time, and we are thrilled about some friends from City of Fountain Sisters, did I say that right? That are joining us. So it's at 1 o'clock in the fellowship hall. There will be story time and I believe a craft. Adults are obviously invited as well. If you don't want to go out to lunch and come back at 1, you are more than welcome to bring a sack lunch or pick something up and come eat it at the church. That's what we'll be doing, my family, before the 1 o'clock. And you will be out of here well in time for the Super Bowl, okay? So before I offer our benediction, let me tell you that there is popcorn downstairs again. So just head down those stairs when you go out. If you'd like to grab a bag of popcorn on your way out, or you can visit with people. I don't smell it yet, but I'm sure when you open those doors, it's going to waft up here. It's always a great time. And then we wanted to add an opportunity to encourage people to go out to eat. We used to group up and go out to lunches, and then the pandemic hit. And so first Sunday of the month, which is Communion Sunday, we're calling them community lunches. So you can go downstairs, get popcorn, and head out. Or if you would like to go to lunch with others, stay downstairs. People will group up and pick a restaurant and go out to lunch. It's a great way to meet new folks in the congregation, to expand friendships. So I encourage you to do that. Find somewhere fun to eat, go out, and enjoy one another's company. My crew will be there. Hopefully some others will be going out too. And we're not going out as like one giant group, because I did not reserve a restaurant, right? Like group up in, decent sized groups and go out that way, okay? That could be intense. That would just be a potluck. That's what that would be. That would be a potluck. Let me offer our benediction, this prayer by Shantideva from the 8th century that we've been using for this series. Pray with me. May we become at all times, both now and forever, a protector for those without protection, a guide for those who have lost their way, a ship for those with oceans to cross, a sanctuary for those in danger, a lamp for those in the dark, and a servant to all those in need. As long as living beings exist, for as long as space endures, and for as long as living beings remain, until then may we too abide to dispel the misery of the world. Amen. Go in peace.